Hello and welcome. I'm Sue Britz,
And I'm Tina Lookbach. Welcome to Retired.
the podcast where we talk about what life is like when we put on new tread, new wheels that move us to our next adventure. Tina, I think you're back home, right?
I'm back home in my little mountain village. And let me just say this. When coming back from such a limited world due to lack of importation, the lack of resources, as I flew back in, have you ever noticed like when you're on a plane full of natives going back to their native country and there's usually a clapping? Well, I was like the American flying back to America, and it was all I could do not to stand up and yell, God bless America! And I was truly crying in my airplane seat, not for any other reason than this complete awareness of all the good we have in our country, the great fortune to be born in our country. And I know we're so divided as a country now, but the rights that we do have, that we still have, that we are women in this country and not in another country, and that we can turn on faucets and water will run. We can turn on electricity and it will be there except in a storm. Getting food, all the food that we could want, that was probably my biggest challenge, is not having the varieties of food, 10 vegetables, 2 kinds of meat, and that's it. Not even olive oil. So I think about the privilege, the wonder of being home. So that's where I'm at right now. I'm just glad to be an American.
Well, that is totally about privilege and really understanding at a gut level, at a sensory level, all that that implies, because so many people worldwide don't have that. And on every day, and they can't even conceive of the things that we take for granted. So,
Correct.
yeah, it's not fair.
No. So just we count our blessings. That's it. We count our blessings.
Well, and I think I can't help but think that that means with that privilege comes responsibility, and we need to be better about that responsibility. All right, so Tina, we're going to wrap up This American Ex-Wife, How I Ended My Marriage and Started My Life by Lyz Lenz. When we first started this podcast talking about our book club choice, we thought we could do it maybe in one podcast sitting. And in the background, I think that we also thought, well, I could go on to another. But it's such an important anchor to all kinds of conversations. I can't say that enough. So get out there, everybody, read the book. Even if you are not an ex-wife or an ex-husband, just to understand what women go through and to get a little insight on the things that people don't talk about.
You know, Glennon Doyle, when she wrote Love Warrior, she talked about when she became famous because of it. She was talking about she had a Facebook posting, and it was like these honest truths, and she said these honest truths about raising children that most of us as parents won't ever admit it, and she did. And I think this is just another form of that. This lady, Liz, love her, is actually telling what we won't say because we're so afraid of social persecution. And she had the courage to say it. And so, again, I'm so grateful to her for saying what I would think probably 90% of us would really say about divorce, but didn't write it down in a book.
Yeah, I agree about the social. How did you state it?
Persecution.
Social persecution. It's also understanding yourself, stepping outside of yourself when you have spent so much time in an us, in a relationship where oftentimes you subjugate your own feelings and your identity to someone else and someone's else if you've got children as well. So you're lost, and it's about stepping outside that and becoming yourself and you know, it's a scary thing. It's recognizing your faults, your weaknesses, and maybe where you went wrong. And but so much power in doing that because you can then reset your your step forward. I mean, being yourself.
Well, reset your standards as well, what you will
Yeah.
tolerate, what you won't tolerate.
Yep. It's about learning. Yeah. Boundaries. Yeah, all
I
those
love the
things.
reset button. I saw that very clearly because I think that's what it is. But, I'm going to ask you, as you remarried, um, marriage is all but compromise. And I'm in this place where I spend a lot of time alone, um, have for like the last 10 years. And I think it's hard to compromise. I'm learning when I am in situations where I'm sharing living space. And I think that's the part of living in a relationship full time that would be my biggest challenge, that is my biggest challenge, because I think I spent so much of it compromising that I don't want to compromise. I really just want to be a tyrant to my own world. Like, it's what I want and only what I want. And if you like what I want, you're welcome. And if not, stay home. And I don't know if it was because it was so extreme in my marriage that there was no room for me in that marriage. And if I had had more of a balanced, in some ways, relationship, maybe I wouldn't feel that way now. But I just want to know, as you're the officially remarried, living full time with another human, what's that like coming back in again and balancing that compromise?
It's an interesting thing, the I think that what you've describing is also about having an age, being a person who's lived enough life to start really understanding themselves in different ways, and having had the opportunity to fulfill the things that they want to do with regard to career and children to a certain extent, all those things. And so when you get to this part of your life where you've had career, you've had children, then you can
Mm.
step back and look at things in a different way. How is that? I'm a relationship kind of person. So, as much as I did like being on my own, and I took my time too. It was easy a couple years before I thought about dating even, and um, those were important to me to kind of reclaim and like that reset button, kind of reset myself and start answering questions about, who am I? What do I think? What do I believe? What do I want? Where are my boundaries and how am I going to do that? And, I think that there's a grace in remarrying at this age because as hard as it is, because we're all kind of set in our ways and so forth,
Right.
if you can find someone who wants to do that, compromising that doesn't compromise yourself, but the compromising is about how to, letting go of dumb stuff that you've did it this way. You fold the towels this way, or that toilet paper roll
Uh,
is set up. So I believe in like the original patent form where the toilet paper roll rolls forward. If you're
Me
going to
too.
have, you don't need to argue about that. You just make a compromise. Those things are not so important. They are, but they're not that important when you um, are able to share a life in a more meaningful way. And it's a partnership. Partnership. That's always what I wanted was partnership. So that's what I have now.
And I also look at relationships should be a partnership. To me, that implies teamwork.
Yes.
And a marriage does not to me. The word partnership works for me. It's funny. And I don't like the words wife, husband, spouse, even. I just want to refer to it as like the human that I'm sharing my life with.
Well, I agree, and I think that Liz supports that idea too. This the institution of marriage sets a tone for that. For me, I am a product of my generation. I am a product of an upbringing that believes in a romantic relationship. I am a product of uh, wanting that promise that is legalized and and the actuality of the legal protections of marriage. So it wasn't hard for me to want a marriage.
Wow. And I think I'm still quite raw. I don't know that I need to be married. I think that my commitment and promise to another human is enough. Because I learned that the marriage legality was not the thing that kept me in the marriage. And I didn't actually see any protections by having it.
Yeah.
But I do believe that it's important in some ways, unless you have it in a will. Maybe that's enough. But at the end of life, like if perhaps I'm not married, I don't know what the rules are, then my person can't come and see me, let's say in the hospital, because they're technically not a relative. That would be the probably the reason I would want to get married. Um, but I don't think there's much more than that, really. Uh, I don't know. I think I'm still healing, Sue. I think I'm still healing. And I have a very sour taste. Hold on, I got to share something funny. So when I see like these new couples and they're out taking engagement pictures, I live in this tourist area and it happens a lot by the lake. And I look at them and just shake my head and go, God, I hope it works for you. I mean, like, I'm not like, woo, they're getting married. I'm like, damn, I hope she chose well.
Yep. Yep. By the way, listeners, just FYI, if you hear a gust of wind or some other outdoor noise, it's because Tina's office is outdoors. She is sitting outdoors. It's in the shade, but there's sun and beautiful redwoods and greenery all around her. So she's in a very happy place.
Yes. And it's cool weather. None of this 95 degrees, 100% humidity, and an actual temperature feel of 105. I'm so glad to be
Yeah.
home.
And people might feel differently about this because all across our nation right now, everybody's sweating. So, well,
Yeah, not
except
me.
you. Yeah. So this we go back to the to this chapter, burning the dress, chapter 13.
I love
Uh,
the name.
I do too. You know, she had this wedding dress that she didn't like. You know, she like yeah. I got married young. You know, you're in my mind of marriage. I didn't want to spend a bunch of money on a dress and the event or even the honeymoon. I wanted to save that for building a future and didn't have a lot of money. And you just so she had a wedding dress that she didn't particularly like and even had a flaw in it, and um she was trying to decide what to do with it. And so burning it up in a chimenea was kind of a cool idea. It appears on the cover of the book, so it is that important that it be on the cover of the book, the burning up of that actual dress. Um, there's a healing in that. And you were just talking about you're still healing. I mean, we all are about things that are traumatic in our lives and losses that we've had. Um, it takes a while to heal, and then that learning from that healing continues on. So she burned it up.
I I have to back up to the very beginning of this whole chapter. And I think you also have to really process the family you're marrying. And the one request she had, because the dress was being sent to her mother-in-law's house. And she said, "Could you please let me know when it arrives so I can go there and make sure it fits?" Such a small request. And I think any warm hearted person would have called immediately and said, "Your dress is here." Because after all, that's part of the most important thing, I think, for a bride is the dress and to be sure that it is what you expected. And her mother in law could not bother to tell her. And I think that says a lot about the son that you're going to marry. And that should have been, let's cancel the wedding now because this is the family I'm marrying into. I matter so little that a phone call to let me know that the most important outfit I could be wearing in my life isn't worth letting me know when it's the one request I had.
Yeah, red flag.
And I think her ex-husband was the symbol of that. He disregarded all of her needs and wants. Anyway, I have issues with the mother-in-law.
Yeah, and that's where women need to be together and you know, help each other out. But, like you say, I think she that indicated something about future dysfunction.
And if I had paid attention to the dysfunction that was screaming in my face, loudly bludgeoning me, I shouldn't have married. I shouldn't have married this human because I married that family, and that family is a reflection of him. And there were warning signs. So I think to all of you that may be young and not married, or you're thinking about re entering the institution, really take a hard look at the family that raised the person you're about to marry.
Good advice.
Thanks.
So, should I read a little bit what Liz says about burning this? Because she's burning it down. She's burning literally the institution, the dress herself, literally the dress itself. The night I burned the dress, I went to Serena's house, and we sat outside with a handful of other women. I put the dress on over the sundress I was wearing, and they tried to rip it off of me. It was like Cinderella's stepsisters, except this time they weren't reclaiming the pieces of my dress in order to destroy me. They were pulling the dress away, trying to free me. It didn't go easily, but nothing ever does. Eventually, Serena took out scissors, and we hacked the cheap polyester into bits and shoved it into the chimenea. Serena asked us to cast our intentions for our future, to speak out loud all the things that we'd hope for ourselves and our lives. I stuffed the dress into the fire and watched it melt in a potentially toxic brew. I said out loud that I did not want to find a relationship just for a relationship. What I wanted was love. But that love was this people around a fire, laughing and burning. I wanted more dogs, more community. I wanted to fix my house, and I wanted to see my friends. I wanted to create a space where my children felt safe. I wanted my children to know they were so loved that they could do anything in the world without fear because they'd always had a soft place to land and a table where they were welcome. And I also spoke into the smoke about my dreams and my ambitions. I wanted to remove myself from the martyr's pyre and instead sacrifice the roles I had been assigned at birth: mother, wife, daughter. I wanted to see what else I could be.
Excellent.
She's retired. Put on new tread.
Yeah, I guess we could look at divorcing as a retirement of
Oh
marriage.
God, yes. I mean, to me, that's what I love about our metaphor of retirement. It's maybe about being a certain age, but it's more even about different identity, a different part of yourself, this newness that brings you a new life, a new adventure that it's going to have its ups and downs and problems perhaps, but the adventure, the living of life, so important.
I I think the one area that I wanted to talk about, it's on page 273, at least on my Kindle, and it's talking about the Dutch treat.
Okay.
And I think the main part of it was basically the settling. So here it says, I would leave, but there aren't any better men out there. Or, I would leave, but he's the best I've found. As if mediocre partnership is better than nothing at all. And I think that many of us step into the idea of marriage and not into the reality of who we're marrying. And I think that's where we're so conditioned that marriage is what you do that we don't raise the bar on who we're marrying. And I have learned from this side that I would rather not be in relationship unless it's with a worthy person. So my standards have completely upped the game because I've realized that the company within myself is much better than an average person.
Yeah, I remember being on a beautiful vacation on the beach, beautiful weather, the scenery, and feeling, and there's people all over the place. feeling totally lonely in that marriage. So the irony at hitting you where you're just lonely because I'm the only one doing this relationship.
Yes, I'm doing it for everyone.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And I once heard this saying and I understood it. And it's, yeah, I'm more lonely in my marriage than I am when I'm alone. And that is the truth.
Yeah.
That pretty much could summarize my entire 27 years with that human.
It's true because, you know, you I being alone, doing the practice of being alone, because some people go right from one relationship to the next and don't take that time to be on your own. And for someone like myself who was married nearly 25 years together, 30 years, you to live as a full adult, a fully grown adult on your own is an amazing and wonderful thing. So I recommend that to anybody. Um, it's healing, but it's also um, setting a tone, like you said, for what it is that you want in a relationship. You know, I am a self motivated person. Thankfully, that's really how I was raised, and but embrace that. And I could see how people could live on their own and be depressed and just sink into that and not get out and live their life. And that I didn't go there. Thankfully, I didn't have to go through that. Um, I always connect with the outer world, but I also connect back to my inner self. And along the way, there was no work, this extra work and labor that had to be done for this other person, and no resentment about them not doing their part and me having to do it. And getting to make all the choices that I wanted for myself, rather than thinking about everyone else except me. Uh, it was it's an important time, I think, and so I can see a lot of value in that. At the same time, I am a relationship person, and I most enjoy doing things with another person deeply and experiencing it together. So, um, yeah,
I think on this journey, it's not just about a marriage partner, but I think it's opened my eyes for all relationships. You have a finite amount of energy to spend each day, and you have to choose. Now I choose to be with people that fill me up. It should be mutually filling, by the way. It shouldn't be me being filled up and left the other person there to be completely drained. I see it as relationships should be reciprocal and it should be fulfilling and filling. And if it's not, abandon, abandon relationship, declares, run because it shouldn't be a drain. So I'm really looking and entering even situations, even if it's your job. Is it filling you or sucking you dry? And I think that's an important awareness in anything that we enter. Does it fill you or drain you? So pick the things that fill you. Everything is about choice. So I'm noticing that a lot of my relationships were very much suckers. There was very little filling. So my it's changed my way of looking at friendships and it's changed who my friends are. And I still feel it's better to have one good friend than 20 drainers.
when you are in a place where you can look at your job, your profession, your relationship with friends, and the relationship, your romantic relationship, your partnership, supposed partnership, um, to be able to choose though is also that privilege. In to the assumption that you're not in such a survival mode that you can choose to change up your job and you are capacitated to go do that and that the jobs are available and so forth. There's a lot of privilege in that. And so coming back to that idea that we started talking about, once you if you have that privilege to choose, you I feel there's a duty in doing that and doing that well to take care of yourself, but also to offer that as your place in society and help others do the same thing. So, yeah.
You lost me a little bit on helping others do the same. Can you give me an example?
So, like, by being that model to do that,
Mm,
and to for not just women helping women, but everyone helping everyone. When you see someone struggling, and
yes.
this is, I think about myself as back when we were teaching, you see someone really struggling with the profession, and you're like, maybe this isn't for you, and so you may be echoing what they're thinking in their mind, and it's like, but I put so much effort into it, I put so much,
All
I
right.
paid for
Time.
it and everything, but you know what? Here's some of the directions you might take. So validating their thoughts about it, directing someone, so advice, modeling, and encouraging, and leaving space for people to learn. So when someone needs taking a risk on someone, if you are in a place to hire somebody, um, all those things. You see their spirit and they want to try this or do this, pull them up. Maybe they're not fully capacitated for that job at that moment, but if they've got that drive and that passion, there you go. That's a way to help because of the privilege that you have, wherever you are along the way. That makes sense.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I have a couple more takeaways. So, I think the biggest word that she used, and I did too, was the word freedom. And freedom was my motto uh, throughout the whole separation and the years still to this day. I still wake up kind of like when I came back to the United States from Cuba. I felt this relief, this intense appreciation. So I have not lost the feeling of freedom. I still wake up most days and think, oh, thank God I get to make my own decisions. Oh, thank God I have the freedom. So, this divorce, as she has said, is probably one of the hardest things to do. And it's not easy on the other side because everything starts and stops with you when you're alone, right? And you don't re involve. But for me, freedom was worth it all. So no matter how hard, would I rather be struggling and having a hard relationship, not having freedom, or would I rather be struggling and having challenges with freedom? And I choose freedom.
Yes. Yes. And yes.
So, Sue, I want to come back to something I just saw, and it made me think of our interview with Mira. And I'm watching something called The Chef's Table. And there is an episode of an Indian woman who is living in London and has an incredible restaurant. And I bring it back to her for so many reasons. But first, I loved listening to Mira and her stories. Second, this woman is a chef. And what she did in living in London was connect. She was so alone outside of her culture. And she connected with all these Southeast Asian women and ended up becoming friends with them that saved her soul living in a foreign culture. And they all ended up working as a community in her restaurant when she finally got to the place where she could do it.
I saw that
And I
episode. Yeah.
ah,
It was great.
and what I want to say that was so beautiful. I mean, I almost broke down crying, or I did, I'll admit it, a few times because I saw this beauty. And I just want to point out we can find love, as Liz was saying, in community. Love doesn't have to be just romantic. Love can be this connection that you have with people and the community you have with people. And I think it's episode 3. I just wanted to point it out to people that if you want to see how connection can work and community can work outside of a marriage in a different way, if you open up your mind, I think that that was an excellent show to prove that true.
And with food as the joining element, delicious.
Nourishment. Yeah.
All right. Any final thoughts as we wrap up this episode about This American Ex-Wife, How I Ended My Marriage and Started My Life by Lyz Lenz?
Rereading it a second time did not make it easier. It was hard. It leveled me. It got me angry. It brought up all the emotions because basically all her situations, including how the marriage worked, including the rip in the dress and not being happy with it, I don't think there was anything that wasn't paralleled. It was just slightly different examples of the same thing. So it was like stepping back into my marriage. And it really has taught me that I don't like revisiting painful things when I've already learned from it. I'm willing to go in there like through therapy and learn, but that was hard. And I don't want to experience that book again. I'm glad it's over.
Well, that was the thing that about the book is that it while she's a whole different person, and that we talked about how she's different, her approach after divorce was different than than yours. It's it, we are such different people, but our experiences and our generation was so different too. But our experiences within marriage were so friggin' similar, so scary, and it tells me that that is brutally true for so many of us.
Yes.
And I love that she's able to put words to it. I mean, because a lot of what I did was just go through my marriage and my life, just trying to massage it or put it to the side, not question it because it hurt and I didn't have words for it. Putting words to it does give you power.
Power. Yes. Yes. And when I wrote my book, it gave me that power too. It was the being able to express the truth, my truth, without any filters, without anyone saying, don't write this, don't put that. It was truly being heard for the first time, even just to myself. I learned things
Yep.
through the process of that about me.
Well, and that's, as we go on, we talk about what we're going to do for our next episode. Choosing something light will be fun.
Yeah, can we do something fun?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we're going to do. Give me some process here because I'm all, and in fact, Sue, that is what the basis of my new tread is creating experiences, memorable, positive, life transforming experiences. Instead of going to the past, it's let's experience the beauty of the now. So I'm all about fun and adventure, and we'll pick that as our next topic.
Okay.
All I can say is, well, I have three things. Freedom gives you choice to make the best decisions for yourself. And sometimes you just have to choose your heart. There's no easy answer, but you have to pick which heart is going to be better for you.
And you said three things.
That was it. Pick your heart.
And freedom.
Freedom and choice.
Okay.
Freedom, choice, pick your heart.
All right.
Which is a choice.
Absolutely.
Which you have freedom to do.
Okay. That wraps up this episode of Retired. Thanks for listening.
Join us next week on our next adventure in retirement. Until then, please feel free to lend your feedback or ask questions by emailing us at retiredpodcastnewtread@gmail.com. You're invited to follow us on Facebook at Retired Podcast New Tread. Check the show notes for links and contact information.
Retired is co-hosted by Sue Britz and Tina Lookbach. It is produced, directed, and edited by me, Sue Britz. Music and graphics are by me too. Please click to subscribe so you won't miss your chance to join
our retired road trip.